Hello. Happy
Hello.
Friday, everybody, and welcome to the Back Catalog Listening Party. My name is Mother Banjo, one of your hosts.
My name is Anthony Ihrig, the other host.
And
Hi.
today we have joining us from Northampton, Massachusetts, the Nields, Narissa and Katrina Nields.
Yay!
Yay.
It's almost like there's people out there listening and excited.
It's amazing.
And speaking of folks listening, Connie's tuned in from Richfield, one of our regulars. Hi, Connie.
Hi,
And
Connie.
Matt from
Leaders!
Urbana, Illinois, one of the folks who first introduced me to your music. So
Aw.
yay! And Tony and I joining you from Minneapolis, Minnesota, our headquarters. And hey, it's Friday, Chris.
Hey, Chris.
And I'm betting Chris might have an Udapils. That's just
I
a
would
guess.
think so.
Udapils beer and Anne. Well, today I am drinking. Tony and I were just talking about the kind of week we've had, and we are very excited to just kick back and enjoy some music with you. And although I still need to caffeinate, I decided I needed a little extra treat. So I have a little stash of cinnamon whiskey in my coffee today.
Ooh.
So it's kind of doing all the stuff it needs to do right now. So that's what I'm drinking, and we'd love to hear what you guys are drinking or snacking on your Friday afternoon.
Oh, you're right. Chris has got
I
the
knew it.
Udapils. All right.
And Tony, what are you drinking?
I have a 3-hour gig at a brewery after the show, so there's no way I could get started early. So I decided to really rev up. The banjo's going to be played extra fast tonight with this homemade cold press coffee that I make very dark and very, very rich. And if I start talking really fast by the end of the episode, you know what's going on.
Yeah. Yep. And what about you, Narissa and Katrina?
I have an orange vanilla polar seltzer.
Nice.
And I'm drinking water.
You could have told us anything, and we would have believed you.
I know we could have.
Marissa and I went for a very brisk walk in the 90-degree weather right before this. So, yeah.
We swam in the 90-degree weather.
I need to rehydrate before anything else.
Well, it's important because we have a lot of stuff to get to on today's show, so we're really excited. And for folks who maybe are less familiar with your music, I know a lot about your music because I've been listening to you guys for a bunch of years, and I grew up kind of near where you're based, and so I had the advantage of getting to see you a lot perform. But for folks who maybe haven't as much, you're staying a little closer to your northeastern roots these days and not touring as much around the country. Maybe you could give us a little brief bio of your band and your background, and also kind of maybe what led up to the making of this record, which is, as we might guess by the title, 17, maybe your 17th record?
Correct.
Ding, ding, ding. Ding.
So a lot happened before then. So tell us, give that in 2 minutes,
Oh my God. Okay. Well, Katrina and I are sisters. We grew up outside of Washington, D.C., and we went to college in Connecticut. And we started singing together in 1987, which is actually late considering we're sisters, just for fun. And then by 1991, we decided to try to do it for our life, or at least for the next 10 years until we got famous. And so we started out in Windsor, Connecticut, and very quickly we were a trio, and then we were a quartet, and then we were a 5-piece. And we got signed eventually to a major label and lived for about 10 years in a van, touring around the country and the continent, playing in folk festivals and making lots and lots of records and having a ton of fun. And then Katrina married the bass player, Dave Chalfant, who's now our guitar player, and he's also our longtime producer. And that was 2001, and that sort of marks the transition to when we went back to being a duo. And we've been playing as a duo with an occasional 5-piece band up until, I would say, March of 2020, when all of a sudden we became a trio again. Dave Chalfant's been playing with us every Monday night in our streaming show. So there, how is that? And now we've made 20 records.
And this is the 17th one we're going to revisit today in the back catalog listening party. And if you're new to the show, welcome. And that's what we do every Friday here at 4 p.m. Central is we invite artists on to dig into an old record and we listen to it together. We talk about the songs and what went into the making of the record. And I'd love to know why this was the album that you wanted to talk about today. What was it about this out of your wide catalog that was the one?
I think that part of it was that I liked what Nerissa was trying to say with these songs, and I felt like I still really relate to the messages that she was writing about in this. And when I thought about going all the way back 25, 30 years ago, I thought, I could talk about what I was like when I was 21, but I'm not positive that would be my favorite way of spending a Friday afternoon. Right. So even though I still love that music, when I thought about talking about the actual songs, these are the songs I felt like discussing.
This record came out in like 2014, 2015, and there's a way in which I feel like after the 2016 election, we were girl interrupted a little bit. Like we were so focused on writing political songs to take down the regime and I'm very proud of that work that we did and are continuing to do.
Thank you.
It's all us. Yeah, it's all us.
Nice job.
But there's a way in which the body of songs in this particular record represents, I think, the core of what we're trying to say and what I guess we're continuing to want to say.
Maybe a wider conversation than just a political conversation. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool.
Excellent.
Well, we can't wait to dig into these songs. So we want to get to as many as we can today. So we're going to dive in with this first track that you picked out to feature today, Joe Hill. And tell us why we want to talk about this one first.
Well, another way of talking about our history would be that when we were small children, we were raised by parents who loved folk music. And our dad played the guitar. He only probably played about maybe 7 or 8 chords, but he played them very well. And he sang to us, and he sang us the songs of Pete Seeger, and he took us to see Pete Seeger and Arlo Guthrie every summer when they came around to our local outdoor place. And we grew up like kind of believing that music was a way to change the world. And when Pete Seeger died, he visited both of us in our dreams. And this is what he said to Nerissa. Is that good?
That was perfect.
Wow. That's amazing. I can't wait to listen to the song with that now in mind. This is the Nields Joe Hill on the back catalog listening party.
Last night I had the strangest dream. I dreamed I saw Joe Hill. He was alive as you and me. I thought we're never gonna see his like again until we find a way to gather at na, 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 na.
All right, the Nields here on the back catalog listening party with Joe Hill from their album 17, which we are revisiting today on the show with Narissa and Katrina Nields joining us. And again, if you have questions about any of these songs, comments about anything we're talking about today, feel free to throw them in there. We'll get to as many of them as we can. Joe made a very cute observation that I was going to actually ask about. He said on a few of the tracks on the album, keyboards come in real subtle to lift, carry, and intensify in all the right spots. Perfect mix every time. And I was noticing the keyboards on that too. There's like an organ and a piano sounding keyboard. And yeah, it's not something I usually think of when I think of Nields music. I don't think of keyboards as much. So tell us who's playing on that, or who's playing on the track in general, because I know there's some extra voices as well beyond yours.
Yeah, well, so this is one of the few records that Dave Chalfant didn't produce. It was produced by his friend Kit Carlson, who is a keyboard player and for many years was in Stephen Kellogg and the Sixers.
And
And
who's been a guest on the show.
That's
That's
right.
cool.
oh,
Nice.
and he was singing on this track. You can
Oh.
hear his voice at the end as part of that wonderful big chorus. And along with Dar Williams, who's singing the third harmony with us all throughout. We asked her to sing on the record and we let her choose which song, and she picked this one right away. She was like, I want to sing on Joe Hill. So that was really fun. But the other thing is I had just resumed piano lessons after quitting at the age of 13. I picked it up again in the early teens of this century, and a couple of the songs I wrote on piano, and it became a tone and a sound I really wanted. So we said and Kit had played on earlier albums, had played keyboards, so we'd said, please put as much on as you want.
So I'm seeing Joe say he hasn't seen us. After 17 came out, we did try to get Kit to play with us as much as possible, but I think it only ended up being like 2 or 3 times. He's very busy.
But we got our cousin.
But then we did a whole tour with our cousin who was getting a master's in jazz piano at NYU at the time. And so he was in the Northeast, and we would drag him around to some of our shows. He's now also so busy doing his own music that we haven't gotten to play with him in a few years. But that, we don't always have a piano. We really like to, though. And occasionally we get Susan Werner to play with us at festivals.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah, that's great. And, it's interesting, getting that sing-along kind of vibe at the end of it, which seems appropriate on a Pete Seeger-inspired song, because I know Pete was all about getting folks to sing with him, the master, at the sing-along. And it captures sort of the spirit of a lot of your music, sort of that folk festival sing-along, folk tradition, even though as folks who know your music and folks as we continue to hear the record today, a lot of your music ends up, you toured as a rock band for a while and has a more kind of plugged in rock vibe, but it
This
has
one
really
had quite a nice
Yeah.
rock and groove on it.
yeah,
too,
but it has this sort of folk ethos, and you've toured the folk circuit. And was that ever a problem, especially in the early days as you were trying to set out, like trying to define yourselves, like, what are they? Are they, because people always want to put labels on everything. Are you a folk band? Are you a rock band? Are you too rock for our coffee house?
Absolutely.
Definitely we got from the folk world, you're a little too rock and roll, and from the rock and roll world, you're a little too folk. But also we got from the folk world, yay, something exciting. And we got from the rock world, yay, something like acoustic and, a little more organic maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So both things were true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it was kind of fun being, the rockin' thing at the folk festival. And many, many folk coffee houses pushed the boundaries by inviting us to play there. And our drummer at the time, Dave Hauer, was very creative at making his sound fit into the whatever size room we happened to be in. So
There's an art to
most
that.
of the time we didn't make enemies.
You just found the right friends, probably.
Right.
I just want to, before we finish talking about the song, I was really struck by the ending. You know, there was this kind of wind down into, it was just sounded like just your voices in unison. And in my mind, I envisioned you waking up from the dream, and you, like the melody was in your head or something like that. I wanted to ask about that ending and just like in general. I love arranging. I love hearing what artists are thinking when they're putting things together. So that kind of stuck out to me, and I was just curious if you wanted to talk a little bit about that, and then maybe your process in general for the layering of the arranging that you do in your albums.
Well, you nailed the concept behind the ending.
Oh.
When I wrote the song, it was very different. It was me sort of almost finger picking my acoustic guitar, and it was like a ballad, and it was a little bit like I was mourning Pete Seeger, you know, like last night I had the strangest dream. And Kit actually said, or maybe it was you.
We actually didn't. We felt like it wasn't working. The song just felt like it didn't fit on the record.
Yeah,
but we really wanted to include it. And I remember we were having lunch.
But you were saying, in general, there was some vibe song that you really wanted, like a kind of song.
I feel like maybe it was the Jayhawks
Yes.
that I was yearning for.
Yeah, she wanted a
Jayhawks.
Jayhawks.
I want a Jayhawks feeling song.
Yeah.
Like I loved that song Blue, but I also loved the song oh God. No, I can't remember.
The Golden Smug
Don't
song.
be so sad, Maria.
Oh
Save
my
it
God.
for a rainy day.
Save it for a rainy
Oh,
day.
yeah.
Yeah.
Song.
Oh, I love that
so much. And so we're having lunch and we're like thinking about how to maybe reimagine Joe Hill as a Jayhawks inspired song. And all of a sudden we were like, what if it had this groove?
And Kit said, Narissa, play an electric guitar and play it on the 2 and the 4. So I got out, Dave Chalfant lent me one of his guitars and I played it. It was so much fun. So that was
Cool.
It just sort of grew from that weird lunch.
And always, whenever we're doing a song that has nanas like that at the end, we think we're done. And then all of a sudden one of us is like, oh, wait, let me go in the vocal booth one more time and add one more thing.
Nice.
Yeah, and I was going to ask about that too. I mean, I'm guessing every song might have a different process, but with your harmonies, I know, you work on them, you sing them all together all the time, work them out on stage. But when you get into the recording part of, kind of solidifying a song, how much time, do you spend? Obviously, you often layer tracks. It's not just, you both singing live, but do you have much of a process beforehand, or do you really just kind of work on it in the studio until you feel like it's right?
Usually the process starts at the very beginning when Narissa has written the song and we sit down
and
nose
it's
to
awful.
nose.
It's awful. It's my least favorite part.
We do often fight a little
We
bit.
fight and it's and my mind goes blank and I can't think of any good ideas that aren't trite. But then the other thing,
sometimes we fight over who gets to sing
we always
lead.
fight over who sings
Oh,
lead. Yeah.
this part needs a low harmony, so Narissa,
We're like,
you should do it.
I get to sing at least one verse. So you'll hear in lots of these songs, like I'm singing the third verse randomly.
We've learned how to share.
We've learned how to share.
That's our artistic
But
message.
I do want to say, I think we each bring a really interesting gift to the studio piece, which oftentimes we're not together when we're doing the very last layer of harmonies, the sort of the background stuff. Like what we were just talking about was the initial arrangement of because when we go out acoustic, oftentimes we're bringing my acoustic guitar and our 2 voices. So that's all we have. So we have to make the vocal arrangement interesting enough to be something to perform with, right? But for the record, we get to do whatever we want. Sorry.
A nice third part going on.
Yeah, right there. Hudson the dog hanging out there.
Yeah, I do think of it as there's the 3 main parts: vocal, guitar, and that's the kernel of the artistic experience now. And it was different when we were a 5-piece band, but now that's the kernel. And then the flower just sort of grows beyond that. And often the first three parts get done before we ever go into the studio. And usually we've performed the song out and really solidified those 3 parts. But then all of the other stuff is a lot more spontaneous.
And I'm always like, it's Christmas time when Katrina and Dave live together. So they're married and the studio is in their house. So they'll go into the studio at night when I'm fast asleep at home in my house. And then the next day I'll get sent what they did. And I'm like, oh my God, that's so amazing. And then for me, my favorite thing to do is to sort of layer 3 background vocals, like just in weird ways. And I love working with Dave to just get him. And sometimes I'll double each one. It's just a whole wonderful, delicious piece of the recording process, but you can't do it till the very end.
Yeah, unlike that first part, we love that. We love putting the icing on the cake part. That's super fun.
Oh, excellent. Well, this is so fun to hear your process and how you create these songs. And we want to make sure to get to more songs because we have so much to get to on this really tasty record. So the next song is one of my favorites, Love, Love, Love. Is there anything you want to say about the song before we dive in?
I was really depressed. I was so depressed. And I actually was meditating in my depression going, universe, help me, please help me, give me some inspiration because I got nothing. And as soon as I sort of opened up and was like calling for help, I felt it flood in, like the help that I needed. And it was like this message. It sounds so corny, but it was like, you have to love. And if you love, you will feel the love come back. And so I was like, oh my God. And I started writing the song and it grew and grew and grew. And actually my original thing was sort of just to do the golden rule. Let me love my neighbor as myself. And Katrina said, why don't you make it love your children as my own? And I loved that switch. So that's it.
Awesome. All right, let's give it a listen. The Nields, Love, Love, Love here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
Don't need no sports car, don't need no gold star, don't need no Oscar to tell me how I act. Just need the blue sky, just need a true eye, just need a good cry to get me back on track. Oh, let
it. The Nields with Love, Love, Love from their album 17, which we are revisiting today on the back catalog listening party. Folks loving that. Penny, Joe, Mira. And
Oh,
So
I
good.
know. And I have to say that that song, it's interesting, Narissa, you were saying you wrote it when you were depressed, because I feel like this is the song I go to when I want to feel better. Like, it's like the solution.
Oh, it's got a banjo in it, so
It does have a banjo. I was going to ask about that. I heard banjo, obviously some nice fiddle as well, and of course the keyboards as well, which I'm guessing was Kit Carlson. But yeah, tell us who else is playing on this track.
So actually, I just I went to the shelf to make sure I was getting it right. But the banjo was played by Matt Menifee,
oh yeah.
and the fiddle was played by Mike Barnett. And I don't know if you guys know Mike Barnett, but he is, I mean, the way we dealt with Mike Barnett playing on our records after he moved out of the Pioneer Valley was I just said, will you play I'll Love Whatever You Do? And I just sent him the track, and he just played it in his apartment and sent it back, and it was always perfect every time.
Yeah.
He's
Love
just
it.
one of my favorite musicians I've ever met, and he about a year ago suffered an aneurysm and has lost a lot of ability in his fingers and arm and legs, and he's rehabbing right now. But there is a GoFundMe for him if anybody wants to try to support trying to get back this incredible treasure. He also has a beautiful record out on Compass Records called Plus One that came out just like a few months ago, I think. That is him playing duets with lots of people, and
Nice.
he's something special.
He's very beloved in the bluegrass community, which I'm a part of, and we'll make sure to link to that GoFundMe.
Oh, thank
and to
you.
that album in our show notes on our website, because he is really beloved by so many. And
He's
for
awesome,
good reason.
and he was like a child prodigy around here. I met him when he was probably like 15 or something, and he was playing with Northern Lights, the bluegrass band, with all these men in their 40s. And yeah, he was just fabulous and so humble and lovely.
Wonderful. Well, again, I love that song. So that was a lot of fun to dig
Very
into
good.
today. And and one thing I always I'm curious about, you earlier you were talking about your vocal arrangements and how that's like kind of the song is the two voices and the guitar. What I'd be curious about is how much the melody itself changes when the two of you come together, because obviously you trade off on who's even which of you is singing the lead, but also there's a lot of cross vocal work and stuff. Does the melody itself change much from when Narissa brings it to the duo?
Well, I have two answers to that. Mostly not on purpose, but what happens is if Katrina makes up a high, so I sort of think of the default thing is Katrina sings the melody and I sing a lower harmony. But if I sing the melody and Katrina sings an upper harmony, the listener usually thinks what Katrina's singing is the melody, and that's what they sing. Like if they're singing it in the shower, they're singing, some hybrid thing, and it's not necessarily exactly what I wrote, but I often like it very much.
I just have to say, this is where the fights sometimes happen. Because she'll be like, no, it doesn't go like that. It goes like this.
And that's usually a
sometimes
subtle thing. That's
Sometimes
usually
a very subtle thing. And sometimes I'm good at learning that. And sometimes I'm bad at learning that. And sometimes maybe I'm bad at learning it on purpose.
But on a recent, there's a record that we made that has not come out yet because it's a soundtrack to go with the novel I've written. And there's a song on there where Katrina completely made up an awesome melody for the chorus that I adore.
What song was that?
Big Red. You totally changed it, and it's wonderful. But that's a little bit rare. I would say it's not the norm.
Excellent.
Cool.
Well, if any of you out there have questions for Narissa and Katrina about their process or about any of these songs or any of their old songs, anything at all, you can throw them in the comments and we'll get to them as we can. We also want to mention that this CD is still available in CD format. And if you want to hear all these layers of these instruments we've been talking about, you might be listening on your phone or while you're making dinner, and you might not get all the nuance that we're getting to hear. So I highly recommend getting the record or the CD in its full form and support the Nields in that way.
I'll second that. I had listened to some of this, before, but like just with the iPad or something in the other room, and I didn't hear all that fancy bass work on the end of this tune. Was that? Remind me who that was again?
I think that was probably Chip.
That was
Dave
Chip.
Chalfin played some of the bass on this record, but I think on that song it was Chip Johnson, who was the other co-producer on the record co-engineer.
Okay.
And he played lots of different things. He played lots of guitars and bass on this. And then, oh no, Dave didn't play bass. He only played guitar. Excuse me. Usually, Dave ends up playing some bass because for the first 10 years, that's what he played for us all the time.
Well, it sounded good, and so
Yeah.
yes, those subtleties and those cool little riffs and things like that really popped out listening in the high def. So
Yeah.
definitely recommend that to folks.
Yes, and we're gonna see how many more we can fit in here. Our next track we have queued up is Normandies. Is there anything you want to say about this before we take a listen, or anything Hudson has to say about it?
Yeah, why don't you play the song and we're gonna mute and we can talk about it afterwards.
All right, sounds
Okay.
good. This is Normandies by the Nields here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
I've been grateful for the journey. I've been grateful for the hill, and I've been grateful for the face that greets me every morning. Still, I wonder if I took the right fork when the left was calling me. Oh, but darling, you're the right one. That's what everybody told me since I was young. If I won you, I'd be face to the sun, face to the sun. Oh, but darling, we're the same one. We are both built like the sun. We need a moon to orbit. I can't orbit you. And if I tried, I'd surely freeze. In a world all full of Normandies. In a world all full of Normandies. It was only for a moment
right.
And
Norm.
I am retreating. All the glory and the dream are folded in with all the laundry. It's a good life, we both should know. But I fear I've let you down by choosing something so contained. It seems like one of us should stay to close the show. Down through every century, there'll always be a Normandy. There'll always be a Normandy.
Okay, now I think it's safe. The Nields, Normandies,
Epic.
always fall for the psych out ending. And no one wants to hear me talk over the most important part of the song. Anyway, love the arrangement on that and all the changes and the build happening in that song.
There's a lot
And
going on in that
a
song.
lot going on in that song. And in fact, we have a few comments about asking questions about that. Joe asks, does the CD have the lyrics? This one is so deep. I get 80% of the lyrics. I want to read every word. And this, well, first of all, I guess you should let us know, can you get lyrics to these songs?
Yes. Look, CD
Oh, look at
has
that.
a whole old-fashioned booklet
Awesome.
with all the lyrics
There
to
you
all
go.
the songs.
So you got to buy the
Yeah.
CD, folks.
See,
And
Pat,
such
Penny
cute
just bought hers, so
Ah, thank
she's
you,
gonna be
Penny.
gonna be getting those lyrics.
And the USB full of their music. That's right. Their whole catalog. So the other thing I should mention too about the lyrics. So there is a lot going on in this song and a lot of the songs. And Narissa, you had kind of mentioned in passing, like, oh, we're working on a project to go with my novel. So for folks who might not know, in addition to writing songs, you write prose as well. I know there's been crossover with the two projects before. Have you ever written something and you're like, no, this is going to turn into like a story, or this is going to turn into a song, even though it started as a story? Or do you think of them all as stories?
So far, there's a pretty clear difference. When I was writing The Big Idea, songs would come out of it. And same with Plastic Angel. I would feel the character inside of the book writing a song. And so I would do that. I would write the song for them. And very recently, I wrote a tiny little flash story that I think maybe I should try as a song.
Mm-hmm.
But I've never done that before. So we'll see.
Very
Well,
cool.
a good tie in here. We did get a question earlier about the soundtrack that you said was part of this novel that you were writing, and we got a question about when that soundtrack would be released, and that I suppose would tie to the release of this book as well.
Yeah,
do we know any dates yet?
No.
My crystal ball says
Crystal ball.
that we will release a different album before the novel album gets to come out, because the novel has to
It
go
takes
through the whole
forever.
publishing world,
Mm-hmm.
and so that takes I don't know. It's just
It takes a
that's
long
somebody
time.
else's timeline
Yeah.
that we have no control over,
Yeah.
and I think that we're going to need to make a new record before those people's timelines line up for us. So it will come out eventually, but I think something else will come out in the meantime.
And one way to stay on top of all of these questions is to sign up for the Nields' newsletter. If you haven't already, you can do that on their website. And you can find out about all the things. They're starting to perform live shows around, and they're continuing with their live stream every Monday night at 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern on Facebook and YouTube.
Thank you.
And you can subscribe to their YouTube channel so you can see all
Yeah.
the videos and get notified of them.
You're on YouTube right now, so as soon as this is over,
Exactly.
just slide on over. I'll throw it in the comments, and you can
That's
check it
right.
out.
And Mira wanted to hear the story behind Normandies, and I think there are a few questions about the lyrics. So yeah, what's the story behind the song?
I was 45, and I was sort of assessing my life as an artist, as somebody who'd made the decision to go all in with art. And at 45, I knew I was, as long as I stay sound of body and mind, and my sister agrees to do this with me, this is what I intend to do for the rest of my life. I love it. And I was writing to, I made up a character basically that's an amalgam of every person that was my friend or lover at any journey in my life who was also an artist. And the pain of feeling like, you are right there with your fellow artist, and then they leave the profession. They go off and become a civilian. And yeah, I feel like crying just talking about it. There shouldn't be any shame about it. Mm-hmm. It's a very, and I'm not even articulating it well. Like there's a lot more going on in the song than just that, but the real relationship that you have both with your art and with your life and the bigger life and one's own ambition and wrestling with, did I achieve everything I wanted to achieve? And also, where are you, my old friend? Where are you? What are you doing? How do you feel about all this in midlife? I don't know. Does that reduce it to say that? I feel like as soon as I say it, it takes away from the song. And I think there are other things going on too that I'm probably just not willing to articulate.
I think that, at least that really resonates for me, someone who is also in that stage of life and choosing art. And I think there's a lot of people out there. It's a hard and lonely path to choose, and the other people that are along for the ride are so essential to keeping you motivated and on track and to help you, along the way. That's why we started this show.
Yeah, exactly.
Is to bring those people together. So I'm sure people read into the other aspects of the song as well. But that was really cool to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I always think about how at any point in your life when you sort of you look forward and you look backwards, you have assumptions about what might happen in the future or judgments about what you did in the past. And to me, when I sing this song, I feel like each time I'm singing it at a new point in my life and thinking about what the future is and what the past is, and sort of like accepting anew. Each time I sing that last verse, I accept anew wherever I happen to be in that moment.
Yeah, that's lovely. And that's something so unique about a song that every time you sing it or perform it or hear it, you experience it in a new way, depending on where you are in your own life's journey, which I think is something so unique and something that we appreciate here on Back Catalog, because this show is all about looking back and listening to old records, but we get to chat with people in real time about how they feel about the songs and their memories of the songs and how they feel about them now, which I think changes, as with time. Chris had a more practical question about mentioned about Europe, and you used to tour all over when you had the band, and I don't know, what was the furthest place you traveled to when you had the band?
Edmonton. No, Alaska.
Yeah, Alaska.
Katrina and I played Alaska as a duo. The whole band played Edmonton. It is one of my great regrets that we've never played Europe, and it will definitely make me cry that we had, to think about maybe never playing Europe. I still hold out hope that
we've
one
been
day
so close, so many times.
You know what? This is the worst. I found an email in my spam that was over not spam, it's I don't know. I found an email that was over a year old from a promoter in Barcelona saying, your record is like number 3 on our station in Barcelona, and I do these tours, and I'm willing to pay all expenses.
Oh my goodness!
And I wrote him, and I was like, "Is it too late?" And he was like, Yeah, but I'll put you on our list for next time.
Oh man.
Oh my God! Like that, just always. First of all, I should not be the point person for this band.
But you're better than
Putting
me,
that out,
so
but I'm better than Katrina. So
Well, your awesome manager Patty right here says Vancouver was the furthest.
oh
you've
no,
been.
Yeah,
I
but
think,
Alaska's farther
but
than Vancouver.
Edmonton is farther north. I mean, I think like I don't know.
Yeah,
who knows?
we'd have to map it on Google Maps, I guess.
You put
but-
it out in the universe now about this European tour that's probably going to happen. I foresee a book tour with a concert component. So
Beautiful. I love your vision.
we're on YouTube here, so the universe, you take over from here, and we'll look forward to checking back in about that. In the
Yeah.
Yeah,
for sure.
Chris, if you have any connections, Christopher.
And we this time is going so fast.
I know.
I hate that because I feel like I want to spend like 2 more hours talking about these
Aw.
songs, but alas we don't have 2 hours this time. So I think we have time for one more song. But if folks out there have questions for Nurse and Katrina, again, throw them in. We'll get to as many as we can. And again, if you sign up for that newsletter, you can find out details of where you can catch them online or in person. And I just want to mention that I used to be subscribed to your old newsletter, like the old hard copy snail mail one.
Oh, wow.
And Katrina did these amazing cartoons of like drawings from the road and their adventures on tour. And it was one of my favorite things to receive in the mail. And I don't know if there's any way you can ever incorporate the cartoons again into the newsletter, but
I know. I really should.
They're the
I really
best.
should.
they're the best.
They're the
Yeah.
best.
I don't.
No
you know,
pressure
I
or
always
anything.
threw them with just in the exact size that they actually got pasted onto the newsletter, and that's sort of my artistic level. So the scanning of them maybe is a little sketchy, but I am duly kicked in the butt to try to make a cartoon happen again.
Also, I hired her to replicate the newsletters for the band in The Big Idea.
Oh,
And so
nice.
She's on that, yeah.
Nice. Oh,
Other
awesome.
other folks really love that. I think maybe the paper newsletters will come back.
I think so, too.
I mean,
love
that
to
would
get-
actually be super fun,
That would be fun.
I'd love to get something in the mail these days. That's not a bill.
right?
Yeah, that's not a bill or a solicitation, pretty much. Anyway, well, we will put that out into the universe too. Maybe Katrina will bring back the cartoons. In the meanwhile, let's dig into one more song from this record. Wasn't That a Time? I believe is the next one, right?
Yep.
Did I get that right?
Yes, you did.
And is there anything you want to say about this song before you take a listen?
Well, I think you're going to run out of time, so why don't you play it, and if there's time, we'll talk about it.
Okay.
All right.
But it is for our fans from the 90s.
It's the story of us.
It's a story
And
of
thank
us.
you so much for having us on this show. We really appreciate it.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
being here and sharing your time. Wasn't that a time? The Nields on the back catalog listening party.
Wasn't that a time, Eliza, when everything was new? I showed you all the world, and you knew what to do. You wore the right dress every time, and every note a valentine from me. past has passed away now. Still do we survive, though we remain with empty hands. The kids have gone on to form bands, and kids will never even know. And still I sometimes wish to fill the stage with noise, to move the way we did when we still had the voice. If I could know then what I know now, I'd hold you close and tell you how we grew, and still we grow. Wasn't that a time? Wasn't that a time? If you look back, oh linger, 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 linger. Wasn't that a
Lovely. What a perfect way to wrap up the
Awesome.
show today. Wasn't that a time? The Nields from their album 17, which we've been revisiting today on the back catalog listening party. You can order CD copies with the lyrics from their website. You can also, I failed to mention that there's also a tip jar. They haven't been touring this last year. They've been doing the weekly live streams, but of course we want that next record. So fill their
and
coffers.
and the European book tour.
Yes, they have a lot. It's those flights, although they're probably cheaper now, are still not that cheap. So throw something in there. David says another anthem. I would agree with that song. And there are a couple things that I thought were particularly stood out to me in that song. Aside from the overall vibe, which I loved, when you talk about crossing the Mississippi 17 times in 1 week, I was like, here in Minneapolis, we cross it a lot. I live right near the river,
Yeah.
so daily crossing the river. But I also loved when you were talking about your kids forming bands, which is true. Your kids have formed bands. Was that them singing in that section? Oh,
Yeah.
Amelia. That was
love
nice.
that.
Yeah.
Love that. It was really great. Well, someday we'll get them on the back catalog listening party.
Yes.
Is there anything else you want to mention about the song before we wrap things up today?
I just am really grateful for your work doing
Yeah,
this. What
thank
an
you.
incredibly fun thing to have added to the world during this pandemic. Thank you.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. You guys are amazing. And
Oh, thank you.
this was a pure joy. Thank you.
Oh, good. Well,
Likewise, this was great. Thank you for
this-
sharing your time.
and Patty says video of the song. Is there a video for this song?
Oh yeah, there's a video of
Oh,
the
yeah.
song where I got our fans to send in photographs of them at folk festivals and Nields concerts and stuff,
Oh.
and I made it into a video. So that's on YouTube on our Nields channel, and it said this name of the song is "Wasn't That a Time?" So
Nice.
Awesome.
Nice.
We'll link to
Google
that
that,
as
you'll
well
find
in
it.
the.
Yeah, we'll
in
make
the,
sure to share that with folks. And again, thank you for joining us today. Thanks to all of
Yes.
you out there for tuning in.
It
If
was
you're
a
new,
special hour.
so special, and again, much needed, particularly for me this week. So
Me too.
having the joy and the conversation is so wonderful. If you are new to the show and you enjoyed it, then like it on Facebook, give it the thumbs up so that the bots will direct more stuff to the Nields, and you can subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you can get notified of our weekly shows where every week we have a different guest artist to talk about an old record, and we do this every week. We're going to continue doing it even as things open up.
Yeah.
So we're going to continue making that happen. Next week, more harmony. Harmony singing has been the theme of the last couple weeks. And next week we have Ordinary Elephant. And if you haven't heard these guys, young folk duo, won a bunch of awards. Think if you like early Gillian Welch and Dave Rawlings, you definitely should check out next week's show. And it's going to be really, really good. So I also want to thank all our Patreon supporters. These are the
we
folks.
couldn't do it without you.
They
Patreon
make this
supporters.
happen.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Wow.
And Penny, Anna, Linda, Bevan, Connie, Vaughn, Alan, Chris, Alex, Becky, Galen, Peggy, Joe, Jim, Beverly, John, Fred, Tim, Sarah, David, Jocelyn, and Court, and maybe you, if you want to support it. Next week, we'll be having an after party, so our guests are going to hang out on Zoom with us afterwards, have an extra drink, maybe listen to an extra song. And we also do concerts, and we're even going to have a couple in-person events as well.
Now that things are opening up, why not, right?
So, thank you, Patty, and for making this happen, too.
Yeah.
And mainly, though, Narissa Katrina, thank you for spending your hour with us.
Such a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And have a great week. We'll see you back next week for another edition of the Back Catalog Listening Party. Stay safe out there, folks.
All right.
Bye.
Have a great week.